whatever it is, whether it's a training, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a seminar, you will need to go through it. And going through it is called learning. Now, after the learning, if you have access to the materials, you need to take it home and begin to study, and begin to study, and begin to study. You get to a point where you will have access to the theoretical knowledge of how to build this microphone. So that is what is called knowledge, and that is what people call power. People say knowledge is power, but I beg to differ, because it is not power. Now that you have understood the theoretical dimension of that particular item you want to become a master in, it doesn't mean that you can begin to create this thing. For you to begin to create this thing, you need to step up. You need to begin to do another level of activity, and that level of activity is called practice. So the first level is learning, studying, learning, reading, listening, watching. All of that gives you access to knowledge. But what you are having access to is a theoretical dimension. Whether you are learning fashion, whatever it is knowledge. If I sit with you now, practical, and I sit with my master, and my master is showing me this, when you put this together with this, when you put this together with this, when you add this to this, when you do this together with this, all of that, I could have sat under my master for 1 month, for 1 year, for 6 months. What is he impacting me with? Knowledge. If I am left alone and I am told to recreate whatever I've been taught over that period of time, I won't be able to. Let me give you a better case study for you to understand. For instance, you can go to any bookstore, to buy a book that says how to drive a car. Maybe that book is 150 pages, and you begin to read this book, and you begin to study this book, and you begin to read this book, and you begin to study this book. After a period of time, you will discover that you have so much insight about how to drive a car from one point to another point, from one city to another city. You have the theoretical understanding. If you are called upon to come and explain how to drive a car, you can explain it 100%, especially if you are an orator, somebody who is eloquent, like Apollos. You can explain, and the uninitiated, if they hear you, uninitiated means somebody who hasn't had access to those knowledge. When they hear you begin to explain, they will clap their hands for you, because they believe you know what you are talking about. All you are explaining is theory. But you know, as well as I know, that theoretical understanding of how to drive a car is actually different from practically driving a car. Before you can begin to drive a car to that point where you master the driving of that car, where you are no longer physically conscious and aware of this is where the jar is, this is where the clutch is, this is where the brakes is, you get to a point where you are no longer conscious of those things. That point is mastery. How do you get there? It is called practice. So the second level in these building blocks is called practice. Practice. And practice is the key to understanding. So the first level or layer is knowledge. How do you access knowledge? Through learning, through study. And it takes a considerable time for you to know. Now, if you want to understand, you need to begin to practice. The scripture says it is not the hearers of the word that are blessed. It is not the hearers of the word that do exploit. Why? Because hearers of the word only, their mind is filled with theory. Bible call it letter, and the letter kills. So anybody who runs with knowledge alone concerning any ministry, any project, it's a matter of time that person will crash. You will get to a point you don't know what to do again, because all you were armed with is entirely knowledge. But there is another strata which is called understanding. How do you access understanding? You don't buy understanding from across the counter. I Coach John Efetobo cannot impact understanding upon my children, upon my wife, upon anybody working with me, any associate. For anybody working with me to have an understanding of whatever is the dynamics of our operations, that person must practice. So it is practice plus practice that brings understanding. And the more practice you do, the more you understand the practical dynamics of that same thing that you have knowledge with. So the man who runs with knowledge alone and the man who has knowledge and has practiced for so much time, they are different. Now, when you have practiced to the place of mastery, where you no longer think of breaks and whatever, you now have access to the first level of wisdom. That is now called skill. By the time you practice and you are now a master, you have a mastery of that trade. You at that point we say you have a skill, because you cannot only explain by words what you are talking about, what you are doing, you can practicalize it. If you ask me, Coach John Efetobo, all of our high income skills that we teach in our ministry, whatever it is, if you ask me without batting, if you wake me from sleep and say, Coach John Efetobo, come and explain this dimension to you, without looking at any book, I can explain it to you 100%, and you will clap your hands to me. Then if you say, come and practicalize, come and dramatize these things you have explained, come and show us practical how you can do it, I can do it. Why? Because I have practiced and I have gained mastery of those things. Now, the combination of study and practice gives you access to the first layer of wisdom. So before you call somebody next time that this man has wisdom, you must have seen what the person can demonstrate in terms of theoretical explanation and practical demonstration. So wisdom men like Solomon, like Joseph, like Daniel, like David, like Abraham, like Paul, are men who can both talk. That was the weakness of Apollos. Apollos could explain so many things, and in the process of explaining so many things, he was confusing because he had no practical experience of what he was explaining. But a couple that Paul had taken through the mill heard him speak, and they drew him to the corner. They said, brother, we thank God for your life. You are so eloquent, but the things you are teaching is not founded, it's not grounded. Have you heard of this dimension? Have you heard of this doctrine? He said no. He said, okay, you need to go through another school where we will teach you the theory, then we will teach you the practicals. So that is what is called knowledge and understanding. So a man who is vast in knowledge and understanding, who has mastery in any particular field, has access to the first layer of wisdom. And what is that first layer? What you explain and you understand theoretically, you can use it to produce something. That thing you are talking about. So if you tell people about driving a car, if we give you a car right now, can you drive that car? Everything you have said, can you? When you can drive the car fluently without crashing it, you can reverse, you can go front, you can drive in odor, you can drive in busy spots, whatever, then we know you have a practical understanding of what you are explaining. Such men are different from those who have theory. So when you have that, you now have skill. But there is another layer, which is the highest layer of wisdom. And what is that? That thing you know, that thing you understand, that you can demonstrate, you can build, you can create. How do you convert that same body of information to profit? To you and to those who that